All right, now we're going to talk about that 1-2 punch for Target. The company pivoted on its DEI programs when Trump came into office, and then the tariffs just piled on. Now the CEO, Brian Cornell, is stepping down. When the week began, Target stock was down 23% for the year. It fell another 6% on Wednesday. So are we looking at a win for the economic boycott launched by black activists over the company's U-turn on diversity initiatives? The Reverend Jamal Bryant helped lead that boycott.
This was the most significant boycott of black people since the Montgomery bus boycott 70 years ago. They lost $12 billion in valuation. The CEO's salary was cut by 42%. Foot traffic was down by 7.9%. So I would say it would be a Herculean part of what happened in the downfall.
Okay, the group chat is back. I wanted to talk about this because there are a lot of places where people who support DEI have not been able to make gains against the Trump administration's rollbacks. Is this a moment, when you look at what happened with Target, where perhaps they did?
It looks like it. It's not just the protest, not to discredit it. It definitely is the protest, but it's also about tariffs. And so the CEO is being pushed out for multiple reasons. And whether or not a new individual can come in and save the day remains to be seen. I will say, when I've spoken to some folks about this, there's real concern about the glass cliff, which is when companies bring in a member of an underrepresented community to fix a problem, be it women, be it a person of color. As we know, the current CEO right now is a white man. The question is, will they try to bring in a black woman to put a face on Target right now, considering these protests?
Yeah, and but you're making a leap. We don't know at all who's in line. Right now it's the COO.
It could be anyone. Yeah. It could be anyone.
I want to just play a little tape of Cornell himself, the now former CEO of Target. I think this was just on Wednesday, talking about what he thinks affected the company's slump.
As one of the largest importers in the country, the prospect of higher tariffs meant we were facing some major financial and operational hurdles as we entered the year. This was further complicated by the multiple changes in tariff policy that have been announced and implemented as the year has progressed.
What fascinated me about this cut is it's like tipping point. If you're a business doing well, maybe you can ride out this tariffs thing. If you're already getting hit by one thing or another, it sounds like tariffs create a problem.
Look, I think the overall lesson for all of this is, companies, especially those that are in the retail and they are front-facing with the public, they should focus on their customers and they should focus on their bottom line business. When companies start to focus on other culture war, for lack of a better term, culture war items, and that becomes what they're known for, this type of backlash is possible. And I think the CEO not only failed on the culture side, but he failed on the customer side, and that's what cost him his job.
But I also think that Target, being based in Minnesota, they did a lot after the George Floyd murder, and they did a lot of partnerships with black creators and people who designers, and so they made their values known then, and then they did an about face, and that I think is the bigger thing here is when you are disingenuous and not authentic to your brand. Either, I don't know if it was the George Floyd piece, that one when they switched there or they switched again.
Hypocrisy across the board.
And you will lose your customers. If you just stay genuine of who you are and authentic to your brand, you will not have this backlash.
I just wanted to piggyback on that. That's exactly right. It looks like that all the post-George Floyd messaging was just a cynical business decision. And I think that's why you see such a strong backlash, because the consumer base believed that these were the values. And so to your point, they need to be focused on selling products rather than values. This is completely self-inflicted, and this is what happens when you try to pander to the left and the right. You should just be pandering to your customer base.
Yeah, well,
sympathy here.
But here's but I'll just put this out there: the economic boycott may have had some success, in fact, because they are those customers, right? Like, they were pandering to their customer base. It was turning on them. That was the problem.
But you even heard it in the earnings call. That sounded like a robot talking. He was completely inauthentic to who he is. I mean, that is not a person. But she's
absolutely right. He was reading a script.
I've worked for CEOs who've done earnings calls, and we've done scripts like that. You have to have them show their personality of who they are. You are a front-facing company to customers. That stuff matters. Your personality matters, and you are representing the company, and you now lost your job because you were disingenuous to your values.
But there are so many companies that poured money into diversity initiatives after George Floyd. They were a lot. 500 new vendors added to shelves, $100 million that they had pledged, but they're not the only ones who had done a bunch of pledging. There's been a massive cultural about face in this political backlash.
That's true, Audie, but I think, at least for me, where I sat looking at Target, they tried to frame it as being part of the DNA of their company. They really positioned themselves as the industry leader in DEI initiatives, and their about face was so quick. It was like immediately after Trump took office, and I think that's what people are reacting to. And with respect to this this boycott, over the past 11 weeks, I think foot traffic is down by 8%, and so their customer base were these folks who really cared about DEI initiatives, and they just clearly didn't know their customer.
Whether they can turn it around is the next question.